This is Uncommonly Remarkable. We have surprisingly casual discussions about the lives and notable accomplishments of community leaders, entrepreneurs, and everyday folks like you and me. Think of this podcast as an opportunity to learn something new and to pick up on an entrepreneurial tip or two through open conversation. I'm Artis Beatty. I'm a doctor of optometry and the chief medical officer for My Eye Doctor OD. Though we will inevitably touch on topics within my area of expertise, the opinions and conversations held here are separate from my work with my eye doctor. Welcome to the show. In today's episode, I sit down with Tim Thomas, a former MMA fighter and Special Forces veteran who turned his personal struggles with PTSD and insomnia into a mission to help others. Tim is the creator of Breathwork in Bed, an approach that empowers people to reclaim sleep, energy, and peace through guided breath work. We talk about his journey from combat to healing, why sleep is the foundation of mental health, and how breath can unlock hidden strength and resilience. As a bonus, Tim guides us through live breathwork practices you can experience along with us. Ladies, gentlemen, all you remarkable people, please welcome Tim to the show.
Okay.
Well, good morning to you, Tim.
Good morning. Let's see if I can. I feel like Eddie Murphy in Trading Places. You want me to break something else?
That's absolutely fantastic. You know, when I start these shows, I usually welcome the guest, and I thank you for spending your time. And this is going to be absolutely amazing because I'm going to leave part of this outtake in the actual show. So, depending on where we cut it, we were getting started. I was saying hello to Tim. We were like counting down, and all of a sudden, his studio falls apart, and he's up fixing everything. He's back in seat now, and we were just talking about the big time difference between where I am in Raleigh, North Carolina, versus where he is in Australia. It's 7 a.m. or so in the morning. It is 5 in the afternoon here. And as a true morning person, we're at the end of my day, and he's got an advantage because he's getting started. So great way to start the day, and thank you for spending your day with us today.
It's great to be here. I got a good feeling about this podcast.
Well, you know, I've spent a few episodes really kind of talking a lot about how we become better in things that we do, whether that's thinking differently, exercising differently, doing things differently, or approaching life differently. We've had a lot of episodes on mental health and physical health, fitness and wellness. And when I first actually saw your profile and started thinking about the show, there was just so many good points in there that I thought, man, we've got to figure out how to make this happen. And so I think people in general understand how important sleep is, but people don't understand how to achieve good sleep and really some of the things that are tied to that, right? Like your general performance, kind of your ability to achieve and how important sleep is to that. And so we're going to talk about that. But before we get there, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do today, and then we'll talk through kind of how you got here and some of the things that you've learned along the way.
Yeah, Artis, thanks so much for that intro. And you talked about doing things differently. For me, that calls up the idea of what normal is. You know, my whole life I've been told I'm different. I'm, all these sort of things. And I'm like, well, tell me what normal is. Okay. And if normal is just, living in a consumer society, seeing your value as what you have or what you consume, and not actually going any deeper than that, not actually going to the places you can't see. And this is kind of where the crazy people come in handy because they see things other people don't. Okay. And then to break the normal, to be different, they're often isolated and socially excluded or, pushed away. So I've found that where you're finding the most resistance from the outside world is probably the best place to go. So my journey kind of starts with this really deep fear I had as a child of great white sharks. Okay. I grew up in a part of Australia where all the great white sharks lived. And I used to wake up screaming nightmares of sharks. And it's not like the boogeyman, check under the bed, it's not there. These things are real, you know. And when my dad would take me out fishing, these things have this thing of sticking their head out of the water and looking at their prey. Okay, 7-year-old kid in the back of the boat, this shark sticks his head out and kind of looks at you, you know. I'm like,
Wow.
you know. So this fear I had was through all of me, right? But the paradox was, the dichotomy was, the love of the ocean that I had. And I used to love going in the ocean, but I was always terrified. And then I started swimming in the ocean more and more with this device called the Shark Shield, which is an electrical device, all right, which creates an electrical current around you. And sharks have very sensitive, they've got sensors that pick up faint electrical fields, because if there's a fish stressing in the water, that'll bring the shark in. But these things, it's kind of like kicking the shark in the nuts, you know. So when they get close, it's like it's a really bad hit, and then they disappear. And I tested this technology, right? And I started getting into the water more, and I started realizing that these sharks aren't just a bunch of murderers looking to eat humans. They have rules, you know. And just like if someone goes into your house, and if they started kicking over chairs, you'd be like, get out, you don't belong here. You know, but if they come into your house and they start doing the things that they're supposed to do within the house, it's okay, you can stay there. You're supposed to be here. And sharks are exactly like that. You know, once you understand their rules, and every shark has a different rule. And the point I'm trying to make here is, what I found was going towards the place that I absolutely didn't want to go cracked open all these possibilities that I never thought were even possible. So that was my compass setting through my life. Like, if something kind of scares me, then go towards it. And I was kind of crazy enough and sort of stubborn enough not to listen to other people when they said, oh, you shouldn't do this or that. And that sort of then created this this taste for your own sovereign nature. And what I mean by that, when you're inside of everybody, there is a certain nature that once you do things that are in alignment with that nature, because you've got a unique, what I call energy signature, okay? But not everyone's sovereign to that, in the way that they're not always aligned to it. They'll often take on things from other people, other ideas and they're sort of doing things that aren't them. But everyone's doing it, and I'm supposed to be doing what everyone else is doing, so I'm told, okay? But to do things differently, to stay sovereign to your own nature, to start with, it can be quite a lonely path. And as humans, we're built for connection, but we trade our sovereignty for our acceptance. You know, does that make sense? So you know, for a large part of my life, I was trying to be acceptable to others and try and do things that other people wanted, but that only brought me more disconnect inside of myself, which then resulted in more disconnect outside of myself. When I actually, and I'm talking a lot here, but I'm trying to wind this in the way that when we start doing the things that we're truly aligned with, you start giving yourself the things that you were looking for outside of yourself, you know? And that's when the switch happens. When you start becoming a sovereign energy signature, you can give to yourself what you're really looking for. Then everything outside of you is a bonus. You can still go after the car, the house, the whatever, but you're doing it from a position of strength, not from a position of deficiency.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. In fact, I had a conversation with a guest. It's been maybe a year ago, at this point, and she has focused on what she calls superpowers, which are the things that are within that each person has that they can do, that can better other people, better themselves through these things that they're just naturally good at from a personality perspective, from an internal perspective. One of those superpowers is something called self-sustaining. And in that superpower, the individual is much more able to find those things within, rather than looking externally for validation. And it's one of those things that not many people have that superpower naturally, and it's one that you have to work very hard to develop for the majority of folks. But once you are there, it makes a huge difference in the way you can actually approach your day to day.
Well, what you just said there is, if someone isn't sovereign, if someone isn't self-sustaining, they can kid themselves in the daytime in conscious hours, but at nighttime, these imbalances show up. Okay, and this is why I'm so passionate about improving people's sleep quality. Because if you can improve their sleep, it's like you're improving the soil from which everything grows from in their life. And we're very visual people. Okay, so, most people look at a tree and go, oh, it doesn't have the fruit it needs. It doesn't have the trunk in the right shape. Oh, we'll give it all these things from the outside. But someone who really understands the energetic nature of what it is to grow something, they go into the soil, the unseen parts of us, and this is what my passion for sleep taps into, is understanding those unseen parts of a person, because once you can actually really connect with them and align with them, all of a sudden you're sleeping well, you're waking up feeling refreshed. There's two completely different types of people in this world, Artist, and they're both you. There's the you that has had a good night's sleep, rested, connected. Then there's you without a good night's sleep, disconnected, needs external sources of energy. I know I eat more. I'm a lot more cranky person, shut up until I've had a coffee. It really shows up when I'm driving, because it's everyone else's fault. So this is why I'm so passionate about sleep, because, fun fact, in the Special Forces, we used to weaponize sleep. So we knew that if we could deny the enemy sleep for 3 nights, it would mess them up better than a bullet. You
Which
literally
is
become, it just no part of you works properly when you're sleep deprived. And unfortunately, so many people are not sleeping well. There's no perceived enemy, but it's almost like the economy is based on us being tired, not really knowing our own sovereign nature. So therefore we have to buy crap we don't need, crap that we could otherwise give ourselves, Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. When you talk about it from the weaponizing of sleep deprivation, that's a really telling thing. And the majority of people, from studies that have done over and over and over again, there may be some dispute over how much sleep is really required, and that amount of sleep may vary a little bit depending on who you are, how old you are, etc. But ultimately, no matter where you fall on the sleep needs schedule, a lot of people are not reaching whatever that amount of sleep is for a variety of reasons. And to kind of think about what you've said so far, some of that reason is internal, and it's there waiting for you when it's time to go to bed. If you've not resolved these things, then you just don't get to have the brain settle enough to be able to go and have a good night's sleep.
What you said there's a whole bunch of science to back that up. But if you want to, like I said, if you want to really destroy someone, destroy their sleep. If you want to build them up, build up their sleep. And there's a lot of people talking about, there may even be people talking about this, but I've always been that person to say, well, we need to give people real tools that they can take away and use immediately. And I'm a guy that couldn't sleep. I had undiagnosed PTSD from my time in service. I went to a doctor, said I couldn't sleep. What did he do? He threw a pharmacy at me. I became a zombie veteran. They call it in Australia zombie veterans, for 6 years. And, Artis, I can't get those 6 years back. But I believe I was given that so I could discover natural and immediate ways for people to sleep. From that state of absolute desperation, I found a way forward, and I'm really glad to be talking to you and your people, because I can't do what you do or your audience, But if I can help improve your sleep, if I can improve the soil from which everything grows, then you're going to be bringing your gifts into the world. So I'm just, dyslexic over here. I see things in patterns. I failed high school, but I see things in patterns. And the pattern I saw was people's gifts come out once they're sleeping well. Conversely, when they're not sleeping well, the economy loves it because we're not thinking for ourselves. Oh, I do need this crap I could otherwise give myself. There's like hundreds of billions of dollars spent on coffee every day. There's, billions of dollars spent on, subscription pills and stuff for sleep. There's no shortage of exploitation of our own ignorance. Our own ignorance of our own body isn't saving us right now. And you don't hear about this sort of stuff because no one's making money from it. And so that's why I believe I was given that 6 years of being a zombie. So I'm pretty passionate about helping people access their own, the amazing, or just starting to understand just how amazing their own body is,
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Well, we're definitely going to talk about breathing and how breathing can be a way of tapping into the awareness you need and the relaxation you need to be able to then move forward with sleep. And maybe it's not all that you need, but certainly if you're not accessing or breathing properly, then you're certainly missing pieces that get you to be able to relax and control where you are before it's time for bed.
Well, Artis, there's not a function in our body that's not impacted by breathing. So if you breathe poorly, everything suffers and you die early. If you breathe properly, everything is benefited and you live longer. So the Chinese for thousands of years have been saying, control your breath, control everything. And this is, and I don't just want to talk about it today. If we have 5 minutes, I do want to show you something and something that the audience members can have a lived experience. So it's not just a talk fest.
Oh, that's going to be awesome. That's going to be awesome. You mentioned being dyslexic and high school. Talk to me a little bit though, because when you're thinking about what you're bringing kind of to the world today, you went through multiple life stages. You were an MMA fighter for a while. You went into the military later in life, relatively speaking, and were in special forces. And then there was the post-military world where you really started to think about how you help veterans. So let's talk a little bit about your history, because I think it's really interesting, but I also think it kind of sets us up to maybe do some of the breathing exercises with you.
Sure. Where do you want me to start?
Let's start with how did you get into mixed martial arts?
Interesting question, that one. I'd always done, martial arts, but off and on, and I was almost turning 25, and I had this sense that something inside of me was being malnourished, and it didn't matter how much I ate with my mouth, I still felt malnourished. Call it my spirit, okay? Something in my spirit wasn't being nourished. And so I thought, well, I could keep eating to try and deaden this feeling, but that hasn't been working for me. I need to focus on this sense of, I guess, spiritual malnourishment. I guess there was something that I wasn't just being met. And so I thought, well, how do you transcend your body and focus on the spirit, if you want to call it that, or your unseen parts, if you want to call it that? And I thought, well, fasting. And it was 10 days before my 25th birthday. I was working night shift in a hotel. I was just a bellhop. And I thought, well, I'm going to fast for 10 days. I'm going to focus on what really feel this discomfort, not try and ignore it. And I thought at the end of 10 days, some golden scroll would fall out of the sky and tell me what I was supposed to do with my life, right? And so those 10 days were kind of long, right? And I still remember it. And I remember the hotel I was at was one of the tallest hotels in Brisbane, and I was on the top of it, watching the sunrise, after fasting for 10 days, expecting this answer to fall out of the above, and absolutely nothing happened. No, maybe I was a little bit entitled, right?
My goodness, though, but a 10-day fast is a very long time to manage just no food intake.
Mm.
And like just that alone people think about fasting in a variety of ways, right? Like if you think about the traditional fast where you have nothing, maybe water. Then there's the fasting during daylight when you think about Ramadan, right? And the purpose is very well aligned to what you just described. It's being able to clear the mind by clearing the body and really being able to focus on what it is that is next for you to achieve becoming one with God. And to get to the end though and feel like, uh-oh, I've done this and I'm not getting that message, it's got to be a little bit rough.
Well, I think what you're talking about there is true, because a wise man once said, we don't, as humans, we don't live off bread alone. We need more than what we just give this meat bag. Okay, so fasting gives you an opportunity to look outside the meat bag, and so just to dial back in, there was this just turned 25-year-old version of Tim, and there's nothing happening. I'm like, well, this is BS, And I remember looking down at my feet, looking down at the traffic below, and I'm saying, okay, Tim, what do you know? What do you know? Well, you know you've got a concept of time of approximately 25 years. Okay, that's no more, no less, And if you think about that time, did it go quickly or far or slow? And I said, you know what? It went like that, went like a click of the fingers.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, Tim, you're going to click your fingers again. You're going to be 50. And that kind of scared me. I'm like, what kind of conversation do you want to have at 50? If the 50-year-old version of you, and that's going to happen, what would they say to the 25-year-old version of you? And then I'm in this sort of existential moment, and I'm like, okay, the conversation went like this: Tim, you've proven you can live with not a lot of money. You can live with people not thinking much of you. But one thing you can't live with is regret. What is the thing that you need to start doing at 25 that would dispel any regrets you'd have at 50? And the idea of me being 50-year-old with regrets scared the hell out of me. And it's really good to find something that scares you, that you do not want, that repulses you as part of your movement forward. Not to focus on it, but to understand that you've got a whole energy system there that boosts you when you've got something you really, really don't want. Okay, in the way that they did a really good experiment once. They had this mouse going towards the cheese, and they measured how many grams it pulled towards the cheese, right? And it was like 300 grams through neutrons. There was some sort of measurement weight. But the point is, they put the smell of the cat in the room, okay, behind the mouse, and then that from 300 neutrons of force jumped up to like 1,200. Okay, and so it is with us humans. There's the things we want to go towards, and that's fine, right? But if you want to really boost the power you've got moving forward, think about all the things you don't want, and if you had them, and it would be very possible for me to make choices as a 25-year-old to be at 50 with a whole bunch of regrets, So that sort of, okay, that's what I want, but this is what I really don't want. F that, that was the thing that sort of was impressed on me in that moment. But this is where it gets a little, even more existential, because it could have been, the fact that I hadn't eaten in 10 days, but I stepped off the edge backwards, and when my feet hit the ground, I heard a whisper, honest to God whisper, and it was behind me, and it was turn up 5 minutes early. Okay, and part of me is like, I fasted 10 days for that. What's going on? But I innately knew that was turn up to training 5 minutes early. So I'd been training jiu-jitsu, early days of mixed martial arts, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Ah,
And this is back in the 90s. And I thought, well, okay, who am I to doubt insanity or universal intelligence? So I turned up to training 15 minutes early. And I'm like, okay, big deal, so what? But then I start staring at this empty space. And I'm all alone. I'm just staring at this empty space on the map.
mhm.
And then I start squinting and I start seeing myself training exactly the way I want to train. Because I'd been training for years beforehand, but I wasn't fully present when I was training. So, Bruce Lee talks about emotional content, being in that moment 100%. So I started seeing myself training. I saw myself when I got fatigued, I'd get even stronger. I saw whatever the coach said, I'd do it 100%. And I created this vision that I saw before it happened. And then when my physical meat bag stepped off the side of the mat into the mat, I got sucked into this sort of vacuum mold, and my physical body became my thoughts. And it was in that moment I discovered the power of mindful is an overused term, but being 100% in any given moment, because our bodies contain mass, right?
Yeah.
I'm in your language, I'm probably about 190 pounds. Okay. And that's stuck at 7:39 a.m. All right. And you own a certain
Yeah.
mass. I don't know how tall you are, but what, around the same?
Yeah, I'm like 5'10" and 180 pounds or so.
Okay, there you go. All right. So your 180 pounds is stuck in this moment because it contains mass. But we both contain something else as unique humans, as we both contain a mind. Okay, and if we try to put our mind on the scales, it wouldn't weigh anything. It doesn't contain any mass. And that's an obvious but important thing to understand, because with your mind not containing mass, it can be a percentage into the future and it can be a percentage in the past. And what that means to us is your mind's got 100% of processing power. Let's say at 100%. So if there's a 30% worried about the future, we've all got things, a lot of people have got things they worry about in the future, things that haven't resolved from the past, that could be taking up another 30%. I'm down to 40%. Okay, in this present moment, I've got 40% available to me because I've got crap in the future that I'm worried about and crap in the past. So up until that point, I'd been training and I hadn't been connected to my own body. I've been going through the motions. But when my mind and body connected, everything just started getting really powerful really quick. I started winning local competitions, state competitions, national competitions, Pan-Pacific competitions, all because I started seeing it before it actually happened. And outside of the ring, and what happens, it's beyond physical power, because when your mind and body are fully connected, there's a certain gravity that pulls things towards you that you never knew were even in your existence. You wanted them, but they start coming towards you. So I started finding, the coaches I needed. I found my life partner then. I found all these things that I was looking for came to me when my mind and body were connected in one given moment. And there's a big difference here. Like, if they say, in life, if you give 90%, you get 90% back. If you give 99%, you get 99% back. But when you give 100% and you're in that moment, 100%, it's like you get 10,000% back. There's this magic that happens from immersion and when your mind and body comes together. But the world we currently live in doesn't speak that language, because if people discovered the power they had of that sort of connection, a lot of shit would be redundant.
Yeah, that's a really powerful statement, because I don't think as humans we don't really have we don't always have the ability to get to 100% connection, right? And so there are lots of stories, a lot of them fictional, about people who achieve that 100% connection. And it's facilitated by a lot of things, right? Like, there are times when it's facilitated by going into the Alps and meeting some monks. There's sometimes when there's a drug or a medicine that does it. And at any rate, every
Well,
time it demonstrates that exact thing, right? Where the return is much greater than the output whenever things are fully aligned at 100% brain power.
yeah. Well, look, it's often experienced through adrenaline too. So, you see your kid
Oh,
under a
that's a great
car and the
point.
woman picks the car up, you know.
Yeah,
We
great
we
point.
we have these incredible superpowers that the current world we live in it's like our forefathers did too good a job. The world we live in is so comfortable right now. We never get to experience these amazing gifts underneath our own skin because the environment doesn't require it. And the
Yeah.
way I see people is they've got these absolute treasure chests of gold inside of them, but it's underneath like a centimeter of soil. And the world we live in
Mm,
never brushes off that soil. So that's why, certain individuals have to go to Tibet, have to do certain breath works, have to get into an ice bath, have to go jogging, have to,
yeah.
access the power that's inside of them that is beyond what this world offers, you know?
And so it's really interesting that the connection for you was something as physically demanding as MMA, and that that was kind of the door opener. And you did this, and you did this, and it sounds like quite successfully before you changed gears and decided that you were going to that a similar feeling happened where you had to find something else that was your calling, and that's when you went towards the military.
Yeah, so mixed martial arts was great. I did it sort of full time for 6 or 7 years, but it wasn't paying the bills. Back in the 90s, it wasn't even called MMA. It was called no rules fights. And in some states of Australia, it wasn't legal, but in Queensland, we kind of could hold it in underground biker bars. And this is back in the day when you could smoke in the bars, right? So I'm going into the ring, coughing up half a lung, and somewhere through the smoke is my opponent, right? Um, but I'm just saying it was kind of like cowboy days, and
Yeah,
because it was
yeah.
no rules, there's guys like, oh, can we digit insert? And the rules like, no, you can't digit insert. Okay. But some guys figured out that the chin isn't a digit. So they'd grab the guy's skull and drive their chin into their eye socket and make him tap out. Yeah, like this is the kind of the place where all this
What a
stuff was born.
loophole.
But what I loved about it was that the reason I did it was I was very uncoordinated in training, but when the fight happened, I was the most coordinated guy there. So I had to realize this about
Mm,
myself. I'm kind of this energy conserving organism that responds when I throw myself into an environment. When my life is on the line, all of a sudden everything clicks in. So, but it wasn't paying the bills, and I wanted to start a family. And so in Australia in 2004, they did the very first in the military history of recruiting for special forces from the civilian populace. It was called the DRSF scheme, direct recruiting into special forces. So the army didn't have much appeal for me, but special forces did.
mm.
And the very first intake was in 2004. I was told between 5 and 10,000 people applied. Of that, 70 were selected. You had to pass physical, mental, aptitude, IQ tests, a whole lot of screening to actually be in it. And then the army itself was highly resistant to the idea, because to apply to even just apply to get into special forces, you had to
Yeah,
spend 2
yeah.
years, 2 full years in a regular battalion, okay, which is no small thing. So we were considered civilian queue jumpers, and they did their absolute best to stop the scheme. So of the 70 that started, I was the oldest at 30, and I picked up the nickname Old Man Tomo, which is so strange looking back on that. And and there was guys younger, fitter, faster, stronger than me, but I had two things in my favor. One, I grew up in the 70s, and getting beaten up at school was just a Tuesday. It was just another day. Yeah, see you
Yeah.
tomorrow. And the other thing was I understood how the body worked and how breath worked, because I was a freediver at the time. So I could control my
Oh,
lungs.
wow.
Okay,
Yeah.
so breath work isn't just for creating a Zen happy space. It is for real time power when it's needed. And I'll just speak to that for a second. So these younger guys, and they were, like I said, younger, fitter, faster, stronger, probably smarter, but they didn't understand why I could keep going when all of them stopped, because the body has a ranking structure for blood. Your brain, pretty important, right? So if it doesn't get enough blood, it'll say, I outrank everything here, I'm getting the blood. So what does it do? It'll knock you out and it'll get the blood. Your lungs, very similar thing in the way that it's quite important to breathe. So when your lungs start getting deprived of getting fatigued, they'll send a signal to the rest of your body saying, hey, I'm more important than the rest of you guys, I'm taking the blood. But unlike your brain, this is a massive muscle group, and it can take up to 1/3 of your total blood volume. So as much as I wasn't as strong or as fit as the younger guys, their blood was taken up in their breathing. You could hear it. Okay. Meanwhile, old man Tomo, breathing through his nose, his blood was in his arms and legs where it should have been.
Yeah.
And
That's kind of amazing.
I should say there was a third thing that worked for me. So do you remember me talking about it's very powerful having something that repulses you, something that you really, really don't want?
Yeah.
So I was blessed to have a former boss who was an absolute, I'm not sure of the language rating here, but I could certainly say not a very good boss. Let's just say it that way. And
Okay.
and so on selection, this is 28 days, the hardest. Every day is harder than the next, right? And just as a personal note, my firstborn was actually born on selection. Yeah, so
Oh,
it's
wow.
not just the physical stuff that you're going through; it's all the other stuff in your personal life that you had to go through. And they told me before I started, hey, this is Special Forces selection. You can see your kid being born, or you can do selection. You can't do both. And that was a hard choice. And I had to go, you know what? I have to see this from a kid's perspective. What does that kid need? Does it need me there at its birth, or does it need a dad with a job?
Yeah.
And that was the reality. I was on minimum wage, and obviously I got my wife to all the support she needed, but I'm just saying it's not just the physical challenges of these
That's right.
things; it's the other stuff. But dialing into what I was blessed to have a boss that I really didn't like. Some days I was doing selection because there was something I wanted. I was going towards the Sherwood Beret, the Sherwood Beret that you can be a commando, right? Good ego trip. But other days I'm like, stuff the beret. But if I stop this, I have to go back to my former boss, and there's no effing way that's going to happen. No effing way. And no crap, man. That was a real, genuine power up moment, having a repulsion to something I genuinely didn't want. So when I'm working with people, I always ask, okay, there's what you want, what do you not want? And then grow that to a point where you're like, there's no way in hell I'm going to have that happen.
I'm going back to that. Yeah. And so clearly you were successful and you made it through. And so in your Special Forces journey, you were deployed as well, right?
Yep. Afghanistan, East Timor, they were the active deployments at the time.
And so I asked that because in the beginning of the conversation, you and I were talking a little bit about sleep and how you could deprive the enemy of sleep for 3 days, and it would be detrimental, as bad as being in a gunfight. Yep. And so during that time when you're deployed, were there periods of time where that was used as a tactic, or how did you guys protect your sleep so that you didn't end up in the same situation?
That would make sense, to protect our sleep as we're trying to destroy someone else's. But the way the Australian Army worked at the time was you trained the people that could deal with fatigue to do the job. And guys could do that, right? But the problem was, after 3 or 4 years in the unit, guys would have these 1,000 mile stares, like they're kind of dead behind the eyeballs, because of sleep deprivation. The body simply doesn't regenerate when you're not sleeping properly. If you think of a phone, if you never charged it, it would die. But the human body, if you look at the phone comparison, we go into this power saver mode where we just do the minimum. So, you know, when your phone's at 1%, you can only access certain features, say. The screen's really dim. Well, a lot of humans are kicking by in this sort of power saver mode, and they just think it's normal because it is, you know, and there's plenty of people doing it, and they never actually, and when they hit rock bottom and they say, look, I really need help, I need to recharge myself, in my experience, if you tell a doctor that, they'll throw a bunch of pills at you. And that is not always the answer. And what no one tells you is, yeah, these pills have a little benefit, but they have a massive cost.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And also they don't tell you how hard it is to get off these things too. So
that is, and that is the unfortunate thing, right? Because it is sometimes far easier to prescribe something or use something than it is to deal with the root issue. I mean, that's and sleep is not the only thing that's like that, right? But there's often there is a longer, harder, but better way to deal with whatever the situation is versus something quick and easy that has massive side effects or let's call it health capital is used for it over time when you could solve the problems a different way.
Yeah, well, look, when people are hurting, they're very vulnerable. They're very suggestible because they want something they want Superman to swoop in and save them. And these marketing people from these pill companies are really good at making you think that all you need to do is take this thing, and people are like, shut up and take my money. I want this, right? and you know, years go by, dollars leave your pocket, and you end up blaming yourself. And I know a lot of people, they say, look, I tried to get help. The help didn't help. In fact, it made it worse. So you know what? Stuff all of them. I'm not going to try to get help again. This is life for me now, you know?
Well, and this is all really tied very closely to how you think about veterans, right? Because, you know, I think people don't necessarily realize that your mental health is so closely tied to your ability to actually sleep well. And if you look at statistics, people who have poor sleep often have other types of mental health disorders and vice versa, right? And so if
200 to
you're
300%
thinking,
more likelihood of mental health problems when you're sleep deprived. Yeah.
which is it's incredible to
If you
think
didn't have
about at that
anything
time,
wrong with
right?
you, if you're
2
not
to 3
sleeping,
times more
something's going to
likely.
happen. Yeah.
Yeah. And so part of what's interesting for me, as I've kind of talked to you and read more about you, is, you know, you go from fighting to being in the military to now helping people think differently about their bodies and their sleep and how that's important. It goes from beating up people to helping people, which is kind of, you know, it's a big swing in things, which is why it's very interesting to me. But you set out on this mission post military to save veterans, right? And so you and your approach was based in helping reduce isolation, I think. So you have to correct me, and then in helping them sleep better as a way of trying to help reduce suicide rates in veterans.
Look, those two things don't show up on the spreadsheet. But those two things, with not a whole lot of resources, we were able to achieve the lifetime goal I had of saving 40 veteran lives. And we did it within a year by simply breaking isolation, because that's a big one. Because what happens, what we discovered is it doesn't matter if the pain's emotional or physical, it'll get to a certain, you know, duration or intensity where it transforms from just being pain to loneliness and isolation. I'm the only person going through this. And us blokes, it's like we have these words we want to say, we can't say those words, so they become like rocks around your heart, and you can't feel anything, and you're carrying this load, and you're going through life going, what the hell? We equate that, if we ask for help, that means we're weak, and if we're weak, we'll let the team down. And I'm going to die before I let the team down, So it's this really terrible downward spiral of self-isolation. And if I'm the only one that's got my back, then you know what? I can't drop my guard for a second, because everything could be a threat. Because if I drop my guard for a second, something bad's going to happen. It's going to be my fault. So guess what? I'm not sleeping. So breaking the isolation could be something as simple as someone who's gone through what they've gone through, sharing their story on how they got through it. And that is so freaking powerful, because I got 6 pages of weapons I'm qualified in, but the most powerful thing we own is authentic conversations, authentic words speaking to your experience. So I came to this realization through the veteran space. Now, everyone listening to this right now is up against something or has come through something. You don't need a qualification, because what that experience does for you is give you the qualification to break the isolation that other people are experiencing. It could be breast cancer. It could be a relationship thing. It could be a horrible boss, whatever it is. If you get through that, then that gives you the right to break the isolation of others. But to start with, we've got to break our own isolation. And so I broke my isolation in April 2011 when I was about to kill a man. And the Australian government wasn't paying me. This one would have been murder, because I'd reached rock bottom. And I said, look, something's not working. And then they said, oh, you've got to go see a psychologist. And that made no sense to me. Why do I want to go see some guy I don't know, I don't trust, and tell him all my stuff? But what do I know? Maybe I'm crazy. So I go see this psychologist, and he wasn't just incompetent. I can deal with incompetence. This guy was apathetic. Like, he just didn't give a crap. And it wasn't cheap to go see him. I paid like over $300 to go see this guy. And at the end, after I told him all the stuff I saw in service, he goes, oh, you think it was a problem with your mum and dad? And that's when everything just froze. The clock, seconds, tick, 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 stop. I became very aware of everything in that room. You talk about having your mind and your body in one moment. Yeah. I was there. And I immediately knew what I was going to do next. I saw the guy had a glass frame psychology degree behind him. And in my state of disconnect, it made a lot of sense to grab that psychology degree and feed it down his neck, because this guy is saying he's a healer. But he wasn't just not healing, he was hurting people. So in my state of disconnect, it made a lot of sense to remove the guy that's causing pain to so many people. I'm doing everyone a favor getting rid of this guy. And I get out of my chair to do it. And there's not a person in the world that could have stopped me, because I got a certain skill set. And I'm halfway through getting up, and I feel this sort of hand on my chest, and words like red flag. I don't know why I heard those words, but red flag. And then, Tim, you're the toughest guy you know. And you're struggling in this system that doesn't seem to want to help and doesn't seem to want to care, doesn't even care. Consider the possibility that there's other people in this same situation. How many other people are in this same situation? And then I sat back down, Artis, and that's when I saw them. I saw thousands of people left and right of me in the same situation, struggling with the same stuff, looking in saying, Tim, if you can find a way forward for you, you can find a way forward for us.
Oh, wow.
And in that moment, I broke my isolation. I had no longer any, desire to do harm to people. I saw these people that were stuck in the same situation. And I really invite people to draw that to them. Whatever you're up against, give it a real number. How many other people are up against what you're up against? Because you are going to be the one qualified to break their isolation. And a lot of them you probably haven't even met yet, but they're going to say things like, you know what, we're so glad that back in 2025, you started moving yourself forward some way, somehow. And it might have taken you a week, a month, a year, a decade, but that's the amount of time you've been able to save us.
That's amazing. So, you told us you'd give us some examples of the breath work,
I'd love to.
and so I'm pretty excited because I've never actually done breath work,
Oh
period.
my gosh.
And so if you don't mind, I'd love for you to spend just a few minutes and
I would love
and
to.
teach us a little bit.
And if people, forget all the blah, blah, blah and take this, I'm going to give you something that you're going to have for the rest of your life. Okay. This is your back pocket breathwork guide. Okay.
Okay.
So all you need to do is be in a seated position, supported. Ideally, you don't want to be sort of driving or doing, in a safe place. Okay.
Okay.
Breathwork is easy, but because you've been doing it your whole life, I need to ask you and anyone who wants to do this 3 questions for permission. Okay, because this is something new you're going to do, completely new. So, Artis, do you give permission to your own breath to fully nourish every cell in your body?
Yes.
Great. Okay, easy, right? Now, Artis, do you give permission for your own breath to fully nourish your conscious mind?
Absolutely.
Fantastic. All right. Now, Artis, do you give permission to your own breath to fully nourish your unconscious mind?
Yes.
Awesome.
Although
All right.
that one's harder.
I know, right? You got to let it in. So
Okay.
this is what alignment does. It's not hard. It's the only thing is letting go of the things that we think are important. Okay. So all we're going to do to start with is breathe in and out. Fantastic. Okay. That was a conscious breath. That is your first step towards empowerment, because understand this, mental health, in my experience, isn't a mental problem. It's a physical disconnect problem. When I'm so focused out there at all the things that are happening and I'm disconnected from my body, if that gets really bad, what happens to my breath? You know? So this is where being aware of your inhale and exhale is the first step to connecting back into your power. All right?
Okay.
So this time, what we're going to do is when we breathe in, we're going to breathe in more. Okay? So, but we're going to start with an exhale. So we're going to blow it out and then breathe in and then breathe in more. Okay? So I invite you to blow it out, shake it out, blow it out, shake it out, out. Shake your shoulders, out. And then breathe in and breathe in more. More. Now hold it. Now wriggle your shoulders, open up that chest, wriggle your spine. And I want you to if it feels good, make a big loud sigh.
That's pretty crazy. Yeah. What you don't realize, what you don't realize is you don't breathe that deep often. If it's just not part of your normal thing. Even when you're exercising or exhausted, you don't get that deep. That's amazing.
And we're only just dipping our toe into a very deep lake right now. So we're gonna juice that up even more. So you notice when you breathed in more, you probably felt more space opening up here, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're gonna call that, for the sake of giving it, for the sake of giving it a name, your secondary inhale. So this is your primary, this is your secondary. And so what I'm going to show you right now is just how amazing your body is. A lot of people don't know but in your 2 fingers and thumb, you actually have a turbo button. And that turbo button, is going to boost your secondary inhale. Okay. So what we're going to do is just blow it out again, breathe in, and when it comes to the secondary inhale, pinch those together really firmly and notice the impact it has on your secondary inhale. Cool?
Okay.
So with your turbo buttons ready, blow it out. Out. Breathe in. Hit those turbo buttons. Okay, hold it. Wriggle. Feel that chest opening up. Wriggle that spine. Move the shoulders, and make a nice loud sigh.
That's amazing. You actually, and you're right. Like I never would have guessed
Okay.
that
Give it a try now.
pinching your
Just with your own
fingers.
fingers. Just breathe in and pinch your fingers. Yeah. All right.
It's amazing.
Our bodies are amazing. Okay. And again, you're going to have this for the rest of your life, and we're just getting started. So what we're going to do now, this secondary inhale, I call this the breath of possibility.
Okay.
Because artists, we're
That's
not
awesome.
just
The
getting
breath of
more energy
possibility.
from our breath, we're getting more energy from our alignment. When we breathe properly, we are aligned properly. And if you look at my structure here, have you ever seen somebody with the weight of the world on their shoulders? They're all bent over.
Yeah. Yeah.
And what we're doing in that position is shutting off our electrical system, because we're an electrical circuit, and instead of hard cables, we have these soft, squishy nerves that run through our whole system that carry our electricity. But they're kind of like garden hoses. You know, if you kink a garden hose or you step on it, there's less water running through. That's how our electrical systems work. And so when we're hunched over, we're literally stepping on the electrical hose pipes in our own system. But when we breathe properly, okay, we're getting alignment through our structure, so the energy is flowing through us. And when I work with the British Special Forces, they discovered that for every degree out of alignment you are, you lose between 8 and 12% strength.
Oh, wow.
Okay, so imagine if, let's be conservative here, a proper breath and breathing in, you want to automatic 8 to 12% strength boost in your turbo buttons. Yeah. Well, there it is, my man. You know.
Yeah.
Okay. So again, this gets better. Trust me. All right. I always put and teeth start popping out when people start breathing, because this is the good energy that you get to access, right?
Yeah.
So what we're going to do is, this time, if you look at my nose, right, behind our noses, we have sinuses. And what we're going to do is, with our inhale, we're going to double the speed of it. Okay. And with our nose, we're going to try and point it to the roof as well.
Okay.
Because one thing my coach used to tell me to do when I was fighting was, before you do a combination, do a big snort through your nose, and that'll oxygenate your brain. Now, whether that was based in science or not, I don't know, but it worked in combat, and it's another way to get the oxygen into your system. So what we're going to do right now is, with your power buttons ready, I'll give you a little demonstration. We're going to blow it out, and then we're going to double the speed of our inhale and look up. Okay, really try and suck that air over those sinuses to get the intake through there, almost like you're trying to suck it through to your brain. Cool?
Yeah.
And we're going to look up, point that nose up, and raise our eyebrows. Okay? Raise our eyebrows, look up. Okay, so blow it out, shake it out, out, kind of look down, have your power buttons ready, and then getting ready to suck in through the nose, lift the eyebrows, breathing in, really quick, raise your eyebrows, open. Now hold it, wriggle. Feel like that chest is opening up. Open up that space in the chest, open that chest up, that wonderful, proud, strong chest, and then I want to hear some noise, let it out with a sigh.
That is pretty cool. But when you're doing it though, you actually feel more in control and different, because you're breathing, like you're getting air in places that you don't normally carry it. You're very conscious about the inhale and exhale, and it's odd to describe what you start to feel out of, because I would not have thought, oh yeah, that's going to make me feeling different, but it does. It's amazing.
It goes beyond words, Artis, because if you think about us as evolved human beings, before we had this sentient mind, before we were thinking, putting paintings on rock walls, we were breathing. Okay, this deep ancient wiring outranks this. The reason you can't explain it, because it was around before we could talk, before we could think, before we could speak.
Yeah.
Okay, and this is the world that we're discovering, and what I love introducing people is just how amazing their own body is. We get so stuck up here, but we forget the power that's underneath us. And breath is the quickest, natural, free way to access this. Okay. And it is a lived experience. And what I want people to understand is use this as your self-medication button. So, when you're in the hospital and you want the nurse, or you got a morphine button or whatever, this now, so when I'm kicking around in the world and, I'm human, things piss me off, I will realize that. And when I breathe it, it's like I'm trying to suck air through and dispel the crap that's in my head.
Yeah.
Okay. And people ask, how often should you breathe? And I'm like, well, when I was on pills, I had pills by my bed, in my car, in the fruit bowl, in my wallet, in a couple of jacket pockets, because I was always trying to self-regulate and I didn't know how. So now when something's taking me out of my zone of where I want to be, I will just interrupt that with my power buttons, discreetly in public, move it around the place and go, I've just given myself back that which I feel has been taken, so that's why this is a breath of possibility. When things seem impossible, snort it in, move it around, things start becoming possible. More energy, more options. And this isn't magic. It's just like if you've got really low energy, you don't have a lot of options, and people protect that. But when you've got a lot of energy, you can make better decisions. You see things from a different place. It's a bit like that saying, whoever has, more will be given. But if you don't have any energy and you don't know how to generate it, what you have gets taken away. So breath is the way to put yourself into abundance really rapidly. Okay. And these two things, this sort of breath, if you can start training that in your downtime, when you start getting into in the real world situations, that's when that really shows up powerfully.
I love it.
And you're gonna love where we go next with this, because that's the breath of possibility. I'm gonna show you how to turn that into the breath of peace. It's very simple. Okay. You're gonna do everything that you've done before. You're gonna breathe in, stretch up, hold it, wriggle, wriggle, wriggle. But you're gonna hold and divide your lungs into thirds: top third, middle, bottom. And your bottom third is where your best gas exchange is. Okay. And we're going to hold it, we're going to wriggle it down, and our hands are going to be in our bellies. It's going to be like a balloon in our belly. We're going to push our belly out. We're going to pressurize it, and then we're just going to make a bit of a cat face and go, okay, and let it come out really slowly as it's pressurized. Okay, I'll walk you through it, and we'll do this 3 times, because by the 3rd time it normally starts fitting in, because, be gentle on yourself. You've been breathing your whole life. But I'll walk you through this, okay?
Okay.
So with your power buttons ready, blow it out, shake it out, blow it out, shake it out, 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 out. And then when you're ready, snort in rapidly through your nose, pinch those buttons, look up, look up, look up, look back. Okay, a little bit more in, now hold it and wriggle it down low. Let your head fall forward, let your head fall forward. Head goes towards your knees, head goes towards your ears, hands on your belly, hands on your belly. Push it down low, feel it down there, squeeze it down there, and then as long as possible. That's it. Just keep on going. Relax your shoulders, relax everything, relax your back, relax your face.
Wow.
We're going to do this 2 more times. Power buttons ready, breathing in. Open, open, open. Now just let it wriggle naturally down. Let it fall down with gravity. Let it fall down with gravity. Let your head go forward, hands on your belly. Feel it go down low. Push it down lower than before. Pressurize it, squeeze it, and then out, out, out. Let your shoulders relax. Let your back relax. Let your face relax. Let your legs relax. And on this last one, we're going to go extra long inhale. We're going to start with an exhale, blow it out, 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 out. Get all that stuck air out. With your power buttons ready, rapidly breathe in through your nose. Look up, open, open, open. Feel that open chest opening up like a flower in the sun. Wriggle your shoulders, Feel good. Push it around. Now let it fall down low. Let your head fall down forward. Hands on your belly. Push it down extra low. Give it an extra squeeze and then hiss it out for as long as possible. Let everything relax as that air leaves your body. Treat your body like it's a deflating toy. Everything's just collapsing like a deflating toy. And I just invite you to let that in. I invite you, Artis, to close your eyes for a second and just feel where that energy is going. Okay, this is your energy, and your energy has an intelligence all of its own. It'll go to where it's needed. It might go to your neck, it might go to your mind, it might go to your lower back, but just let it go to where it's supposed to go. This is you in an aligned, connected state. And notice how when you breathe now through your nose, you can be a little directional. So if you've got tension somewhere in your body, breathe specifically into that area. So treat your breath like breathing into that area. It's almost like that muscle group or joint group becomes like a set of lungs that expand and contract as you breathe with it.
Yeah. That's absolutely amazing.
Who knew, right?
Who knew? Who knew? And so I love the fact that we've dipped our toe in it. I think this is fantastic. But now, if you're really curious and you want to do more, how do we find out more about breathwork and what you do, and where do we find you?
Sure. Okay. Well, look, the most powerful breathwork you can do is, and you don't need much, 5 or 10 minutes going into sleep, because that'll connect you to your charge point. Presence of oxygen, absence of disease. You'll sleep better. You'll wake up feeling refreshed. But then when you wake up in the morning, 5 or 10 minutes to wake up in the morning. So if you can win the first 5 minutes of the day, you've won the day. So before your feet hit the floor, if you're doing breath work in bed, then that sets you up super powerfully. And wouldn't it be convenient if you had reminders just falling out of your phone, when you want to go to sleep, when you want to wake up? Because this is the thing. Micro habits are the thing that make the biggest difference. So if you can have that little notification falling out of your phone when you want to sleep, you just tap and press play. When you wake up, the same thing. That is probably the most powerful thing you can do. And I've created a platform that anyone can access. So do you have a smartphone or an Android?
Yep. iPhone.
iPhone. Okay. So if you go into your app store, 3 words: breathwork in bed. Breathwork in bed, and it'll ask you the most important question you'll ever be asked, and that's what time you want to sleep and what time do you want to wake up. And you will easily and effortlessly get those little notifications that you can tap, and it's guided breathwork. All you have to do is listen to breathe a certain way.
I love it.
And it's easy, it's effortless, it's your power. And the high-tech thing isn't the app, okay? The high-tech thing is your lungs. But because we've been breathing our whole lives, we need to be guided to elicit a certain response. And what people are going to discover, artists, is when they do this breath work, we don't own a set of lungs. We own a medicine cabinet with a lot of different shelves. And we can self-medicate with our breath.
Amazing. Tim, I got to tell you, this has been absolutely fantastic. It's a great way for me to wind my day down. But I think the information has been phenomenal. I love that we got to practice together, and thank you so much for what you do. I think it's such meaningful work, but also thank you for spending the time with us.
It's been an absolute pleasure.
Well, I'm definitely gonna download the app, and I'm gonna follow you around, and we'll keep in touch, and maybe we'll get to come back and talk about successes and more as time goes on.
Absolutely, I want to be hearing a turbo button hit from the other side of the world.
There we go. There we go. All right. Well, thank you so much.
If you've made it this far, then I have to thank you for your time. I hope you've learned something new and enjoyed listening to the discussion as much as I enjoyed having it. I'd love to hear from you about the show because we're working really hard to bring you great content and the feedback really helps us get better. If you like what you've heard or watched, for those of you who are streaming out on YouTube, then take a split second to give us a thumbs up or a like. It really helps other people like you find the show too. And no one likes to miss out on the good stuff. So go ahead and subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't have to wonder when or if there's a new episode. And until next time, stay remarkable.